to all of you. It's good to be in Medjugorje, isn't it? It's almost the end of the season for most of our English-speaking groups. And I think the best way for us and you to finish the season is to meet with Jakov, the youngest of 6 Medjugorje visionaries, who is this morning with us. We thank him for his time, and we thank you for being with us. We're just waiting for a few more to come, and once everyone is ready, I think we are ready. Some people are late. Ready? Jakov is saying, I put my glasses on, now he can see you. Jakov is asking, can he ask you for a favor? Yes. Put down your mobile phones. Turn off your mobile phones. This is not important. Because he says, I'm so big that I can't even fit in your picture. Jakov is saying, I used to be thinner than I'm now. Jakov says, I desire to greet you all. It's beautiful to see you here in Medjugorje. And truly, when I see every pilgrim who comes here, it's for me like if I could see a child who has come to meet his mother. There is one thing that I would like to ask you. Are you happy to be here? Yes. This is important. Because God wants us to be happy. But at the same moment, He desires that we share this joy that we feel with other people. And do you know why you're here? Yes. You're here for one reason only. You're here because you're invited by Our Lady to come here. And you're here because God wanted you to be here today. And the first word that we have to say when we come here to Medjugorje, and very often we forget to say this word to God, and that word is thank you. We have to give thanks to God for these 41 years of grace, for these gifts that He has been giving to us. God's love for each one of us is immeasurable. He's been sending to us His mother for 41 years. And our mother says to us, dear children, if you only knew how much I loved you, you would cry out of joy. How beautiful it is to hear these words. And I believe that the hearts of each one of you here will start crying out of joy. By your coming here, you made your first step. And now we have to do what's the most important. We have to understand what Medjugorje is all about. And in order to be able to understand it, we have to make a step which is very important. And that is that step that Medjugorje is so famous in the world about. And that is confession. We go to confession to set our hearts free from sin, from all which is blocking us to come closer to God. And in confession, our hearts will become free and pure. And when your heart is free, your heart is open for every grace that comes from God. And Medjugorje is a place of grace. Maybe we just take a few examples. How many people converted here? I just want to be close to you. I have to tell you, he's teasing me. Is your hearing poor? Or that's why you're coming closer to me? It's amazing how many people here in Medjugorje have found God. How many prayer groups in the world are fruits of Medjugorje. How many priests received vocation here in or through Medjugorje. I believe that in every single corner of the world, people heard about Medjugorje. Not because of me, but only because of those people who have become Our Lady's apostles after experiencing their conversion here. And that's something that Our Lady wishes from each one of us. And all of you who are here today, you have a huge responsibility. Now you can't say, we don't know anything about it. Now you do know. And we have to become Our Lady's apostles. And in what way? Maybe the easiest way is just to talk. Now, as you can see, I'm here giving a talk. This is the easiest thing to do. Now I could share with you the most beautiful things about myself. I could say to you, yes, I'm the youngest of 6 visionaries. I'm the best looking one. Jakov says, I'm just joking, but I think I am. It's good to joke, and I like joking. These are only words. But Our Lady teaches us how to give our witness. And we should give our witness through our own life. So that other people can recognize God inside of us. And have God works through us. What is Medjugorje? Medjugorje is not about visionaries. Are you looking at someone special now or something special? I have no crown on my head. I'm not holy. I desire to be holy. I'm invited to holiness as each one of you is. But it's a long way to holiness. And when pilgrims come to me, some people want to touch me. I always say to them, nothing will happen to you if you touch me. Or maybe pilgrims say to me, can you say this to Our Lady? Can you say that to her? But why don't you do it yourself? Because Our Lady did not come only because of me. Never did Our Lady say during an apparition to me, dear Jakov. She simply says, dear children. We are all her children. And that's why it's not important to come and meet visionaries. Medjugorje is also not about these huge hotels, souvenir shops, and restaurants. Sometimes pilgrims, when they come here, first what they notice are the hotels, restaurants, and shops. And very often, people criticize that. But we want to see that. But when we come to Medjugorje, we should look at what's the most important thing is. And that's St. James's Church and Jesus Christ. And that's why Our Lady has been coming here. To bring us to Jesus. So that we could start living a brand new life with Jesus. And a new life with Mary. So many times Our Lady has said in her messages, "Dear children, it's enough for you to surrender your hearts to me, and I will do the rest." And all of our hearts, we have to surrender our hearts to the Lord. We have to surrender our hearts to Mary, so that Jesus may come and dwell in our hearts, and so that He may reign our lives. When the apparition started here in Medjugorje, I was only 10 years old. And I know that sometimes some people think, what were those people like so that they deserved to see Our Lady? Firstly, I never asked from God to see Our Lady. I did not even know that Our Lady could appear. I did know that Our Lady exists, that God exists, that they are in heaven, that I am to pray to them, that I should go to Mass. And I believe that every Christian family and all Christian parents are teaching their children that same. And I do know and believe that a child who is only 10 years old can't really live a very profound faith. For me at that time, the most important thing was to be with my friends, to play with them. And that was my life, my faith, before the apparition started. But God had different plans with me. And when God calls you, you simply cannot but answer to His call. And I remember that first day when I came up the apparition hill. When I went up the apparition hill, and Jakov says, I don't know how I found myself up there. But I do recall the most beautiful part. And I do remember when for the first time I knelt before Our Lady. When in front of me I was able to see the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. The most beautiful eyes. And so much peace, so much joy, and so much love in those eyes. And at the same time, my heart started feeling this. As if in that moment my heart was telling me, Jakov, this is your mother. And I felt unbelievable love for her in that moment. The following day, we went up the hill and came to the same place. And Our Lady appeared to us again. And then, from that day on, my daily apparitions started. And those daily apparitions of Our Lady lasted for me for 17 years. And at the very start, it wasn't easy at all. We leave aside the fact that communist regime was ruling at that time and all what we went through because of the persecutions. Many people were asking me if I was afraid. No, I was not afraid. But I was afraid of one thing only. And even nowadays, I'm afraid of the same. Am I giving enough in return to God to thank Him for all the graces that He has granted to me. Because I did realize that this is an enormous gift. But at the same time, a huge responsibility. And it was hard for me at the start to start living the messages of Our Lady. Many people think that straight away we were given the grace to accept everything and that's it. No. We were learning as all of the people. I'll give you an example now. I remember when Our Lady invited us to pray 7 Our Fathers, 7 Hail Marys, and 7 Glory Bees. So I said, okay, that's not a lot. Then after that, Our Lady said, pray 1 mystery of the Holy Rosary. And then after that, she said, pray all 3 mysteries of the Holy Rosary. Then later she said, pray for 3 hours a day. And then I said, Our Lady, isn't this a little bit too much? But when you start saying 1 Our Father, 1 Hail Mary, 1 Glory Be, when your heart feels peace, joy, a great relief, when in your life you have so many questions, and when through prayer you receive answers, when you find yourself in difficult moments, and when you're praying, when you're given comfort through prayer, when you realize that you're not on your own, that God is with you, then it's not hard to pray. Because prayer becomes joy for you. And prayer becomes your daily nourishment. I'll never be able to give thanks to God enough. Especially for me, because I was only 10 years old. And I can really say that I grew up with Our Lady. And I'll share with you one example. Very often, when difficult moments in our lives come, we say, God, where are you? Where have you been? And maybe it's normal to ask this question. Because if we feel God as our Father, then we'll talk to Him. Where are you? Where have you been? But I will share with you my story. I saw Our Lady for the first time when I was 10 years old. And Our Lady has been guiding me to the main goal, to meet Jesus Christ, to meet God as my Father. And at that time I had my father and I had my mother. 2 years after the apparition started, my mom died. A year later, my father died. I have no brothers or sisters. And then many people thought he's on his own. Sometimes I was even angry with people when they were saying this to me. Because I never ever felt alone. They were difficult moments in my life. Because I'm just a human like all of you. Especially at that time, at that age, when you miss being hugged by your mother. When you're crying. But exactly in those moments, you hear the words from God, of God. You're not alone. I am with you. I'm holding your hand. It's just enough for you to surrender your life into my hands. And that's how my life went by. There were ups and downs, like all of us. But I thank God for the grace of knowing Him as my Father. My Father, who was always offering me his hand to lift me up and to continue walking. And this is what Our Lady asks of each one of us. We should not make plans about our lives, but we should surrender everything into Lord, to Lord. Let Him guide us. And let Him do with our lives what He thinks it's good for us. And then, later on, I met a girl who became my wife. We're 30 years married now. Really? Oh. I have 3 children, and I'm a granddad now. So you see how God has guided my life. And that's exactly what He desires to do with each one of us. And that's why Jakov says, I invite all of you to say one word here to our Lord. We say yes to God. Yes, Lord. Yes, I surrender my life to you. You think of me, and you think instead of me. And do with my life what your will be done. In 2013, a new period of my life started. I just said earlier on, I've been giving many talks and giving many testimonies. That's exactly what I'm doing now with you today. And I used to travel a lot. And this was very rewarding because I just wanted to share with people at least a little bit of what I've experienced. But I came to the point when I started asking myself, is it this enough? It's easy to go around the world and to give testimonies. But I was asking myself, is there something else that I could do so that I could give even more thanks to God? Because I'm fully conscious that I'll never be able to give thanks to God enough for all that I have received. And then a very difficult period of my life started. And that period of time actually helped me to think more about everything. And now I really say, Lord, thank you for that time. And God guided me to our parish priest, Father Marinko, Medjugorje parish priest. And Jakov says, I said to Father Marinko, I would love to do something more. I want to do something for our parish so that I could give more and more thanks to God. And I had my own plans and my own ideas. Because we all love doing what we love doing. But those were not God's plans, now I see. And I remember after having met our parish priest and after having spoken to him, 3 days later, he invited me to come back for a talk. And then we got together here on the church ground. And the parish priest, so happy and excited, he says, Jakov, I have something for you. And I was so happy. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to probably do what I suggested to him that I should do. And then he's bringing me into one direction, and I was a little bit panicking at that point. Because he was guiding me towards the oldest house here on the church ground. And that house used to be a stable. And he opened the door of that little house. And inside I could only see one plastic chair. And he, so happy, says to me, Jakov, this is your office. And then I said, and what am I going to do here? Jakov says, I'm very open, I'm very straight. But then, the answer to all my questions came. The parish priest, Father Marinko, said to me, I want this place to become an office for the needy. And straight away I understood that's the answer to my questions. And my heart also started understanding one other thing. God is giving you a new grace. From now on, you can give witness with your hands, helping brothers and sisters who are in need. And I started working there without anything. And I started visiting the families who were in need. And that's something that I really found very hard. Because all people have their own dignity. And believe me, the poor people, their dignity is even bigger. And I remember my first meeting with one family. I knocked on the door of their family home. But before that, I said to the Lord, Lord, if this is your will, stay with me. The door of that family house opened, and a lady stood on the door. I could see children playing in the background. And I just was about to say something to her, but she just hugged me straight away, and she started crying. And I'm a crier, Jakov says. I cry a lot. I started crying together with her. But I understood in my heart in that moment, she was so happy to see me in her house. And I understood in that moment that the first thing that we have to give to those people, and that's something that all of us are in the greatest need of, that's love. And especially love for people who are in need. So that they don't feel alone and abandoned. So that they don't feel that they're forgotten. And that there is someone out there who cares about them. Or simply that they are not different to any one of us. Because in this world that we live today, this is a material world. And even when we say the word help, straight away we all think about material help. And it's true, people are in need of material help. But very often, the greatest help we can give is our smile. Just a hug. Just a kind word said to them. How beautiful it is to see when you go and visit the families, especially elderly. So some of those elderly people, they talk to you. And they're holding your hand all the time. They don't want to let you go. Because maybe for months they didn't see or speak to anyone. But it doesn't cost me a penny. On the contrary, I am given far more. And this gave me a great strength to continue my work. Because I really understood that helping other people, we receive far more. And you start giving thanks to God for small little things. For a piece of bread that you can share every day with your family. And somehow, always we're asking from God more and more. But yet we are given everything. Me, for example, I have my own family. They have bread served on their table every day. I can give a hug to my children. I can tell them I love them. I can smile at them. But there are so many children out there who are suffering. And at the same time, their parents are suffering because they're not able to provide basic things for their children. Very soon after we started working, a lot of people outside of Medjugorje found out about what we were doing. Thanks be to God, here in Medjugorje area, there are not too many and so many poor. But outside of Medjugorje, it's just enough to go outside. That's completely different reality. People were coming to us and asking for different kind of help. And for me also, it was a bit strange at the start, Jakov says. When some people simply come to you and they say to you, I have nothing to cook for them today. How sad is that is. And I continued with that work till 2016 in that way. And at that moment, there was a lot of work to do. And I was on my own there. And I simply could not be at all the places. And then I said to God, if this is your will, if you want this to continue, you take care of this. And I forever will remember, Jakov says, that moment and that day. On the door of that office, a young man knocked and came in. So I thought that he was there to ask for help. But he said to me, do you need help? I asked him, where are you from? He said, I'm here from Medjugorje. Because Medjugorje is pretty big now, we don't know each other at all. I said, of course you can help. And the following day he brought his friend. His friend brought his friends. And then I got the idea to start with volunteers. At the moment there are 60 volunteers who are helping. And we take care of 700 families. And what do we do? We're not concentrated on one type of help only. For example, every month we deliver 700 boxes of food to the families. We help some of them to buy the medications that they cannot afford. People who could not rent their homes, we rented homes for them. We refurbished many houses. We help with furniture, food. If there is someone who has to be taken to the hospital, people who live alone, no one can do that for them, we do that. And many other different things. But there is one thing, and I ask this from all the volunteers, because all this that is done, you cannot do it without love. But what is giving us that love? Prayer. And that's why the first rule in our offices, every Monday, we get together for prayer. And we ask from the Lord to give us more and more love. So that all that we do out of love. Sometimes we also wonder, we are wondering, my God, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make it? And now I'll give you an example. We are an association, a charity that lives in Providence. We don't know whether the money will come or not. And we live on pilgrims who are coming here. And then a difficult period of time came, the pandemic. And for 2 years, no one was here in Medjugorje. But before that, I had a plan. But it was not possible to realize it. And then the volunteers were asking me, how are we going to continue? How are we going to go on? But then I said to them, why do we worry? There is someone who will take care of all this. We surrender everything in God's hands. And trust me, believe me, during the time of the pandemic, we received 3 times more help than at the time when the biggest number of the pilgrims had been here in Medjugorje. And then at that time, the most difficult time, what I wanted from the start was realized. And that was a public kitchen. Every day we serve 200 hot dishes. And we bring those dishes to their family homes. And that also changed my life. And now I can see the life in different eyes. Maybe even there were moments when I thought, oh, wow, what now? What to do? And I know that I'm aware that I even made mistakes, maybe sometimes ignoring people in the past who are in need. Because very often we're inclined to judge them. For example, an addict, a homeless who is lying down on the street. But who are we to judge them? Did we live their lives? Do we know what they went through? Very often we simply pass by those homeless. Sometimes maybe we will give a little bit of money and then we think we help them. But have we ever stopped by them? Have we ever stopped and asked, how are you doing? Did we hug him maybe? Maybe that's going to be hard for us, because considering the condition that they're in. But then the main question arises, what kind of Christians are we? Because if we are truly Christians, then in every person we should recognize Jesus Christ. Maybe the easiest thing is just simply to say, yes, I'm a Christian. I go to Mass. I say a prayer. But what about our deeds? Because I do believe that our faith without any deeds is a dead one. So when you return home, because poverty is not here only, poverty is all over the world. Maybe you have a neighbor who only needs your kind word. Maybe when you walk down the streets of your cities, maybe now you will look at things in a different way. Maybe we'll offer our hands to them so that they can feel our love. Because this will mean far, far more for them than giving them millions. Jakov says, I ask you all to pray for the work of Mary's hands. And we are going to pray for all of you. And I thank you so much for all this. This is what I wanted to share with you, Jakov says. We're going to conclude saying one Hail together. In the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Queen of Peace, pray for us. My Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. On behalf of all of you, on behalf of my colleague guides, Jakov, thank you. Not only for this talk, but for all the talks that you have given to us. This is the last week, the last group, so now he can have a rest. Thank you so much to all of you. Jakov, thank you.